everyone, and welcome to the Culture Cast. I am your host, Chris Stashew, and I am joined by my favorite Canadian, the one and only, the master auteur of the Great White North, Mr. Matt Campagna.
Thank you, Chris.
It's just, stroke that ego.
I'm not gonna deny that.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, if you're hearing Matt's voice and my voice on the same podcast, that can only mean one thing. We are either, well, it can only mean two things. We're either talking a DC movie or a Marvel movie, and you're in luck.
Which means we're either shitting on a DC movie or celebrating a Marvel movie.
Exactly.
One of these days, this pattern's got to change.
Well, this podcast is not changing that, I don't think, because on this podcast, you're in luck. We're talking about Spider-Man Far From Home.
Everywhere I go, I see his face. I just really miss him.
Yeah, I miss him too. I don't think Tony would have done what he did if he didn't know that you were going to be here after he was gone.
You gonna be the next Iron Man now?
Well, no, I don't have time. I'm too busy doing your jobs.
Oh.
I'm kidding. Look, keep up the good work. Because I am going on vacation.
Heads up, Nick Fury's calling you.
I don't really want to talk to Nick
Answer
Fury.
the phone.
Why?
Because if you don't talk to him, then I have to talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. You sent Nick Fury to voicemail?
I gotta go.
You do not ghost Nick Fury.
What up, dorks? What's up? We're just talking about the trip.
I'm here in St. Marco Polo. Oh,
I think MJ really likes me. That reminds me when I first fell in love.
You're a very difficult person to contact, Spider-Man. This is Mr. Beck.
We could have used someone like you on my world.
Your world?
Beck is from Earth, just not ours. The snap tore a hole in our dimension.
You're saying there's a multiverse?
We have a job to do, and you're coming with us.
There's gotta be someone else you can use. What about Thor?
Off-world.
Captain Marvel. Unavailable. But I'm just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Bitch, please, you've been to space.
What do you want, Peter?
I want to go back on my trip with the girl who I really like and tell her how I feel. MJ, I
am Spider-Man.
No, of course I'm not.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
You're right, you may not be ready, but this is my responsibility. Saving the world requires sacrifice. Sometimes people die.
Oh my God.
I just always feel like I'm putting my friends in danger. The world needs the next Iron Man.
Are you going to step up or not?
out of here. Get on the jet. Who are you? I work with Spider-Man.
You work for Spider-Man?
I work with Spider-Man, not for Spider-Man. New plan.
So the film, he's far from home, folks. Okay.
Evidently, and this movie was far from bad.
Yeah, exactly, right? So the film is directed by John Watts. It is written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers. It stars Tom Holland once again returning as Spider-Man. Shockingly, he didn't die from Endgame. Spoilers if you haven't seen that movie, which if you exist, you've probably seen it. Also stars Samuel L. Jackson, Zendaya reprising her role as MJ. Got a little bit of Jon Favreau action going on, and kind of the big third wheel in the film, the one and only, the Gyllenhaal, Mr. Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, a.k.a. Quentin Beck, a.k.a. Dreamy Mick Dreamy.
Is he the Gyllenhaal? I mean, he's a Gyllenhaal.
Oh, he's the Gyllenhaal. We don't talk about the other one.
Boy, oh boy! I mean, just because she was in a really crummy Batman movie doesn't mean.
Right? Thank God. Thank God. That's what, you know what? Of all the things we disagree on, which really isn't that much stuff, the thing that we agree on is how fucking bad those Nolan Batman movies are.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Batman Begins
has its moments.
And you can't tell how bad trilogy is going to be. It seems like it's off on a pretty good foot, and then you realize that they've robbed all the magic, all the phantasmagoria from Batman, and it's just Punisher in a helmet.
Batman Begins also had the source material of Batman Year Zero, which is a really well done graphic novel. So it's kind of like a conversation you and I were having before we started recording about Game of Thrones, where when you have good source material to cop from, it's kind of hard to screw it up so badly that everyone turns against you. So Batman Begins copped directly from Batman Year Zero. So,
and you know what? I think even without trying, it cops from Earth One. Like it tries so hard to be real. It's not even Batman. It's that interesting idea of what if Batman was in the real world, and they made a couple of issues of it, and they take years and years to turn them out, and they're like really boring, because if Batman was in the real world, it'd be really boring, which is why those three movies are not fun.
But speaking of movies that are fun, because again, what things that we disagree on, I think we're going to agree on this. We're going to be talking spoilers for those of you that haven't seen it. Maybe you didn't get a chance to see it because it was super crowded at the July 4th weekend. July 4th in the States. I know you're in Canada, so July 4th means nothing to everyone north of the United States or south, or essentially anywhere except for those British taking the big L in 1776.
I don't know, man. I was still nursing my Canada Day hangover when I went to go see Far From Home.
Exactly.
It was out to come out on a Tuesday.
So what did you think of Spider-Man Far From Home?
Oh my God, I enjoyed it so much. I think it's a brilliant way to sort of dovetail all of the questions you have at the end of an epic story like the conclusion of the Infinity Saga, where sure, we finished off a bunch of characters, we killed them off, but what happened to the world? There's a moment in Endgame where Tony Stark's hologram says that hopefully the world is back to something resembling a regular kind of life. And this film really tells you what that is in the sort of way an epilogue for a 3-hour movie just does not have the time to do. And I adore the action in this film. I adore the humor in this film, but I also adore the craftsmanship that goes into making this not just a great Spider-Man film, but a really strong ending to that incredibly traumatic experience of Thanos wiping out half of Earth.
That's the thing about this movie that I think impressed me more than it being a good Spider-Man movie, is that it felt like the worthy cap to the Phase 3, the worthy bookend. Yeah. It works not only as a worthy bookend, because they do have, Spider-Man keeps talking about Tony Stark throughout the movie, and you see kind of glimpses of where the MCU is going, and I think it works beautifully. I think it's a great direction for it to go, but you also get a story that stands on its own, which is impressive because it takes a lot of tact from McKenna and Summers to craft a story that not only, like you said, addresses the effectively 6-hour movie that is Endgame and the Avengers Infinity Saga, whatever the fuck you want to call those two movies together, Infinity War and Endgame together, but also caps what I would say is all of the 23 movies together by giving us something here that answers the questions, but also gives us subtly the direction for the universe moving forward. And I know everyone was bitching about the multiverse stuff and it being kind of a ruse, and come on, they're not going to introduce the multiverse shit in a Spider-Man movie. They're just not going to. If they're going to address it.
But they kind of did.
Sure.
By calling it Earth 616, it gives people who love the multiverse in Marvel just enough to feel like, okay, there's potential. Things could happen.
Honestly, I think that was kind of an Easter egg, right?
Yeah, but there's a meta element here. The idea that not only is it ridiculous enough for people to believe it in the Spider-Man universe, but it's ridiculous enough for us to believe it watching the Spider-Man story. And I think it's quite fun that we almost had a multiverse, and then, we don't need one. We really don't. We have a lot more characters in the 616 universe to go through. We still haven't seen the Netflix Punisher, the Netflix Kingpin, the Netflix Daredevil hang out with Spider-Man yet. There's plenty of stuff to do on the big screen that will hopefully be allowable once Disney consolidates all their power with Disney Plus. Should be quite cool to see.
Well, and again, I mean, I think that Earth 616 thing is just a cutesy little nod to the fans. And it's fine. I mean, again, we all knew that this was just a ruse. I mean, if you know anything about the character of Mysterio, you know that he uses, in the comics, he uses quote-unquote magic and illusions. And here they actually do a really good job of addressing Mysterio existing in the real world in a way that, like we were talking about Batman, how Batman is so ham-fisted and dry when it comes to how does he exist in the real world. Well, Mr. Wayne, we've got the fucking bat tank and all this bullshit, and it's really fucking annoying. And in this, there's like a sense of
here.
Yeah, but in this, there's a sense of fun. Like,
there's a sense of fun, but also they managed to do it in a way that fully explains it. Whereas you've got like a weaponized neurotoxin that comes from the mask that the Scarecrow has. And that's a direct comparison to what Mysterio is doing in the comic books. And for us to, in 2019, or I guess technically, what are we at now, 2023 in the MCU's
That's
timeline?
right.
Anyway, effectively now, to be able to tell a story about an illusionist, but do it in a way that doesn't feel cheesy, goofy, or like a magician. And I think the fact that they managed to tie in the very first MCU film, arguably one of the more obscure moments when Tony Stark invents barf, and just sort of jam in a snap zoom that has our Mysterio on the scene.
Which totally works, but not really. It works enough. It works enough. I mean, look, I'm not gonna pick the shit up. I'm not gonna pick the movie apart for that bullshit. But it was pretty great. It was like, what? Oh, he was just standing off screen. We never saw him. Like, okay.
But if that was all that he did, it wouldn't work. But they managed to bring back the guy that Obadiah Stane just great.
Funny story. Do you know who plays him? Do you know who plays him? That is Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Is it?
It sure is. And he was actually in the original Iron Man, so that's the same actor.
Oh, straight up, yeah.
Straight up same actor, which, again, that's the thing I have to commend this movie for, is tying back in. And at the same time showing how big of a problem Tony Stark really was and is and continues to be, which I think it's like he was his own worst enemy, because he, like Quentin Beck. I mean, Quentin Beck has some very valid points. I mean, Iron Man was a drunken asshole for a very long time, and he obviously turned himself around, but he was still very selfish, and that's why Quentin Beck became Mysterio, who then essentially did the same thing. But I like that ties back in to the main narrative, and it shows how intertwined Spider-Man and Iron Man are in this universe, which really works.
Yeah, and I also love that they managed to make Quentin Beck have just enough Tony Stark charm that you could see how someone like Peter Parker would fall for it in that moment. And there was no time where it felt like the big move that Peter has to do. There's no time where they feel false. They feel ill-advised, they feel foolish, but they don't feel false. And that to me is key, because there's a lot to choke on in a movie. And they managed to just run it so smoothly, and not just like get you to buy into some ideas that move the MCU forward in the way that, Age of Ultron did that clumsily, or The Dark World did that clumsily. This is a movie that does it beautifully and gives you nothing but enjoyment, while also handing you the actual comic book accurate version of how Mysterio first appears, framing himself as a hero.
Right.
And I just think it's so smart to pull Doctor Strange production design and pull Thor production design into this character that he's built, and to make it look pretty much like it does in the comics. It's remarkably similar.
Well, it's remarkably similar, but in a way that makes sense in this MCU. Right. Because like you said, it is very Thor-esque, like with the chest plate and the cape. And again, that's the way he talks about it in the film. It's intentional. So it's great. And again, I hope he's not dead as a character. Obviously, for reasons of the Sinister Six, right, exactly. He needs to exist for the Sinister Six to ever exist. Whether or not that ever happens remains to be seen.
I doubt it'll be Quentin Beck. It'll probably be Ralphie, because there are moments where Mysterio
actual
is like
Ralphie.
A pot-belly.
Fuck.
Yeah, well, Mysterio is like a pot-bellied character who has illusions that make him look thinner. Like, there are moments in the comics where you find out he's not very fit, but if they're able to play that up and make it Ralphie, whatever that actor's name is,
Peter Billings.
If they're able to make him play Mysterio because he downloaded the illusion tech to his phone and took off, that would work for me, because I can't really see Jake Gyllenhaal being one of 6 members of the Sinister Six when Michael Keaton is going to be another one.
Oh, but wouldn't that be so great? Wouldn't that be
I feel like if
Keaton and Gyllenhaal?
Ralphie,
come on.
But if you put Ralphie in there, he instantly becomes a beta. And I feel like Mysterio, next to some of these Sinister Six villains, you're going to need someone to be the joke. And I think that'll work really well. You can't have 6 alpha, kick-ass, amazing villains all together. That's not going to be a very interesting dynamic. Just like Hawkeye and Black Widow should not be bulletproof because everybody else is.
You have them all be alphas if you're using the Sinister Six to kill off Spider-Man.
No, but then it's still even boring storyline. You need to have the characters interlock in some way. And in order to have a plural antagonist, you can't just have them all be the same solid, amazing villain. You need a first boss, a second boss, a third boss. There needs to be enough of a believable growth as he accomplishes taking out members of the Sinister Six. But you're right, the more impressive they are, the better it would be to kill Spidey.
Well, and here's the thing. I honestly don't think Sinister Six is going to happen. I think that there's other more interesting stories to tell. I think that the Sinister Six is not... Look, as fun as it is in the cartoon and in the comics, it's just one of those storylines that I don't think would translate very well to the screen because it would just feel like too much, if that makes sense. Just too much going on, and you'd need, like, multiple films, and unless they plan on making 3 Spider-Man movies and then 3 more, which
9. They're planning on 9.
Really?
In total, yeah.
Sweet Jesus. Well, first off, I hope that John Watts is involved in all of them. Because
his next choice is Kraven the Hunter.
Right. Yeah. And Kevin Feige has said the next Spider-Man movie will be a story that you've never seen before, which that would track if it's Kraven. But look, John Watts, if you've seen his film Clown from 2014, super fucking weird body horror movie about a guy who puts on a clown costume and can't take it off, which is super weird. And then it goes on to Cop Car, which is a great film. And Kevin Bacon is fantastic. And then you go to Spider-Man Homecoming, and then this film. So John Watts, he transitioned right into Marvel. And far be it from me to say that if the Russos don't want to do the next big Avengers movie, John Watts would be my first choice.
Cool. And hey, maybe the next big Avengers movie is a Sinister Six film.
I just don't think that makes sense.
To have enough people.
Right.
I don't know, man. You put together enough Earth-based villains in some kind of... I mean, you got Kingpin.
Yeah.
So if you can bring a new Sinister Six, because nobody needs to see, I'm going to say 3rd, maybe 4th Green Goblin. I'm okay with never seeing Electro. There's enough goodwill.
Well, was it Electro in the last movie? No, that was Shocker was in the last movie.
Oh, no. The last movie that Sony did.
No, yeah. Well, was in Homecoming, Shocker was in that movie, right?
Yeah.
And he got murdered.
Who, I don't know if he ever gets into... the Sinister Six. I'm not sure. It's shifted enough that there's different people who have been in the Sinister Six. I think the original 6 were Doc Ock, Electro, Mysterio, Sandman, Vulture, and I want to say Kraven, not Green Goblin, but he gets into it, like at the roster shift. But it'd be nice to see. It'd be really nice to see Kingpin in there.
I don't want to see Doc Ock either.
No?
Again, look, here's the thing. We're like less than 2 decades removed from the first time they did Spider-Man, so I'm glad that they're not just tackling things we've seen before, right?
Oh, they're doing a great job of that.
Right. I don't want to see Rhino again. I don't want to see the Lizard. I want to see something new, and obviously Kevin Feige and the team over at Marvel does as well, much to their credit.
So does the team at Sony, because I gotta say, their version in the Spider-Verse of Green Goblin and of Dr. Octopus and of Kingpin were all very fresh, and we'd never really seen Tombstone before, and it was really cool to see the way they did. They let Doc Ock be a woman, which was, I thought, a very inspired choice.
And you know what? We didn't get a chance to talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. As much as I like Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is still the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to compare them, but I certainly enjoyed what Spider-Verse was willing to do on a really ambitious level. From the animation choice to the story choice, they did so much ambitious stuff. And this Spider-Man movie had so much it had to do, Far From Home. So much it had to do, and it did all of it so well. But it's hard to compare to the sheer amount of brilliant world building and tight storytelling that happened in Spider-Verse. Because you don't need 22 movies to get you there. You're already there.
I'd like to point out who did that movie. Oh, right. Lord Miller did. And they were kicked off the Han Solo movie because they were subverting our expectations of the Han Solo character, yet they subverted the expectations of the Spider-Man character, and it was the best Spider-Man movie ever made, and we got a Han Solo movie last year that was a complete and utter, just like generic action movie that you could have slapped any characters into and it wouldn't have been Star Wars. So just let that sit for a second. Think about that, Kathleen Kennedy. Maybe if you're going to hire people that have a vision, let them do it.
Well, and hire Lord Miller to do a cartoon. Don't hire them to do a live-action $125 million reboot of a beloved character. Give them something that nobody has ever done before. Nobody had ever done the Lego movie, and they did it, and it was incredible. No one had ever done a Miles Morales story, and they had carte blanche, and it was incredible. But if you're going to take, like, brilliant storytellers and try to squeeze them in a tiny little box, you're not making a better movie.
Nope.
You need to take those brilliant storytellers and say, do whatever you want. And if you don't have that freedom, you've given them the wrong project.
Well, and the thing is, you also have to let them be them. Don't show up one day on set and be like, this isn't what I want. It's like, well, that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So,
are you the director, Kathleen, or are we?
Speaking of things that are amazing, and speaking of things I honestly, it makes sense, but I still kind of can't believe it. J.K. Simmons?
Oh, my God. And making him into Alex Jones?
Well, hold on. They
smart.
They copped that from the Spider-Man video game. Okay.
Fair enough.
That is directly from the Spider-Man video game. If you've played the most recent one from, Insomniac on the PS4, that whole Alex Jones thing.
I don't have a PS4, so I haven't played it, but a friend of mine is the voice of Spider-Man, so I feel pretty bad that I haven't actually experienced it.
First off, it's the best Spider-Man movie that you can play, so it's up there in the conversation for best Spider-Man things, but they completely caught. I don't know if it was intentional. I mean, it probably was, but unless it was in the comic book somewhere recently, which I wouldn't be surprised either, but in the game, Spider-Man is constantly hearing on his, his communicator, his radio and in his mask, whatever, the same thing that you see at the end of this film, where it's an Alex Jones InfoWars-esque J. Jonah Jameson, and it totally works. And I'm glad they put it onto the big screen. And what I'm even happier about is the fact that they realized that if you have perfect casting, which, by the way, J.K. Simmons is perfectly cast as J. Jonah Jameson. I mean, when people think of that character now, they think of J.K. Simmons. You just do everything you can to get him back. And John Watts in multiple interviews has said, if we wanted him in our film, the only person we wanted was J.K. Simmons. And look, was he in Justice League? Whoop-de-fucking-do. Or Batman vs. Superman? He was in one of those, right? And I'm glad...
I forgot. Yeah,
I'm glad that he's back into the mix with Marvel again because, how do they say it? Oh, DC is fucking garbage. Except for maybe Shazam, which I haven't seen, so I can't comment on Shazam.
I saw Shazam, and it's quite lovely.
Okay. I trust your opinion on that.
It's a bit saccharine, but I gotta say, they made 2/3 of a good Wonder Woman movie. Aquaman is a very profitable bag of shit. And
it has a sexy man as Aquaman, Matt. Are you jealous of sexy man who has no ability to act?
Well, he has the ability to act, but he only has
grunting
the ability to act like one thing.
Grunting is not acting.
Always that one thing. I think the thing about Jason Momoa is he doesn't have a whole ton of range, but if you put him in the right thing, he's fantastic. Like in Game of Thrones, it's perfection.
He also doesn't have any lines in English in Game of Thrones, but let's not.
That helps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that helps. Although, I mean, there are just certain things you can do with him and certain things you can't. And
not everyone is going to be The Rock. Okay,
where you can do everything. The Rock can do.
Well,
everything.
yeah. I mean, look, The Rock
can sing. The Rock can dance. The Rock can wrestle. The Rock can sell any emotion.
Could wrestle. Don't say can.
What do you mean?
He can't wrestle anymore. He has movie muscles, not in ring muscles. If you watch his recent wrestling, he gets gassed within 5 minutes of being in the ring. That's fine. If you need to look jacked for movies, that's one thing. If you need stamina to be in the ring, that's another. The bigger point here is
the take is gonna be about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
He's done. So,
the Rock is a charismatic big man actor, muscle-bound actor in the vein of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jason Momoa is like Stallone. When Stallone wasn't being charismatic, which there are movies where he's not. I mean, I guess maybe, I don't know who Momoa, because Stallone is charismatic in those Rocky movies. Maybe Momoa is more like, ooh, you know who Momoa is? He's Steven Seagal.
No, I think you're right. He's more of a Schwarzenegger, where he's got
Momoa?
one thing he could. Momoa is more of a Schwarzenegger, where because Schwarzenegger has no, he's got no chops.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, even he knows he doesn't have chops, so that kind of works in his favor. I mean, like, he could deliver one-liners. Like, I'm not sure Momoa can. Yeah, I mean, Jingle All the Way is an American cinema classic. I mean, come on, that movie's great, dude. When he's fighting Sinbad in the Turbo Man outfit, boy, talk about a Christmas miracle all over again. I'll tell you what, though, the thing with DC is they seem to be giving up, sort of. Maybe not.
They're giving up. They're really
scaling back.
They're retargeting the idea that maybe they can make one good movie, and then after that, they're going to try to make one good movie
and stop connecting your universes.
Yeah, because they're not good enough at making one good movie to graduate to connecting your universe.
No.
Like, they started with Man of Steel, which was dead wrong. So when you're starting with the movie that's
Superman
dead wrong,
doesn't kill people?
Superman's dad isn't a xenophobic nightmare hound? Like, all of the choices, all of the character choices for Pa Kent, for Clark Kent, they're all wrong.
But wait. So what you're saying is Superman doesn't kill people and Superman also doesn't hide his powers from people?
Yeah, it's kind of just sad that Snyder wound up getting the reins to Superman. I think if he just got the reins to Batman, it might have been okay.
I think if Snyder was taken out back and pushed back into films like, what was that fucking Sucker Punch? Oh, this movie's not sexist and misogynistic. It's not, because last time I checked, it is.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate movie. Absolutely, I'm not a fan of Sucker Punch. I think what Zack Snyder did with Watchmen was quite inspired. I think what he did with 300 was great, but other than that, his DC movies.
But you're not saying 300. You're not saying 300 is great, though.
Oh, I enjoy 300 so much.
Oh my god! Oof.
What a visionary, crazy, ridiculous ride that movie was.
What, that movie is just the comic book on screen. Any asshole with a big enough CGI budget and slow-mo can do that.
No, it's easy to say that now. That was revolutionary at the time.
Well, you know what? It hasn't aged well.
It hasn't aged well, but that movie was made for dirt cheap, and it made crazy money, and it's like the only good Gerard Butler movie ever made.
Have you seen Olympus Has Fallen?
I don't know if I'm excited for Drone. Is that what the new one is called?
Are you talking about Angel Has Fallen?
That's it. I just call it Drone.
Drone movie, the movie?
Yeah, Drone, the movie, where basically characters are just going to drone. So
the thing that I appreciate about Marvel, on top of the fact that while both Marvel and DC don't know how to make posters, because the posters for Spider-Man were fucking garbage. When I was walking into the theater to see Spider-Man, I saw the poster for Wonder Woman 1984. It made me want to vomit in a trash can. It was the most bizarre looking weird. It's like trying to be Stranger Things 80s nostalgia-esque, but not no idea what that means to people at DC who clearly are just like buzzword fanatics. Like, oh, it must be like metallic, and it's like, no. But let's talk more about Spider-Man, because just talking about DC movies just makes me sad, honestly.
It's pretty depressing. Yeah.
Because
James Gunn is making the Suicide Squad, and
the Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad 2.
Nope.
The Suicide Squad, because putting the in front of the movie doesn't actually change that it's just the same title of the last movie.
What do you mean? Tell that to the Batman.
Oh, I'm aware. That's just as stupid. And look who it's being made by. DC. I mean, I have high hopes because Matt Reeves is great, but
I couldn't be less.
Look!
That
Robert
and the new Joker movie. Oh my god!
It's not comic book. It's not comic book inspired. What?
I have no interest.
I mean, Todd Phillips directed what? The Hangover and Old School, so that'll translate.
I'm just going to watch Batman 1989 when that movie comes out and enjoy a good Joker.
And look, I have high hopes for the Batman only because, and I know this is probably going to piss some people off, I honestly think Robert Pattinson is a pretty good casting choice.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, look, he has pretty good dramatic range. He's in some really good stuff that isn't Twilight, which is kind of like saying Daniel Radcliffe is in good stuff.
I still think Oscar Isaac would have been the choice.
Nah, dude, Poe Dameron, get the fuck out of here. Go back to your gay Star Wars, Poe Dameron.
I would have loved to have Batman be not a white dude.
Sure, no, I agree.
One. And a guy who looks perfect for the role because he's darker than Superman, and I feel like that would have worked so well. And then they went with like sparkly guy, so white he's sparkly.
Don't try to enforce your race baiting with me. Okay, hashtag not my Ariel. Seriously, bro, don't do that.
Hey, I'm very excited for Black Ariel.
Who cares what color the fucking character is? I'm more upset that Mushu is not in the fucking Mulan live action movie. What sort of fucking universe is this shit?
Not in the trailer.
No, he's not in it at all.
I don't know.
He's been replaced by a phoenix. That is what they have said. Well, I mean, you know what the problem is? Disney, knee Marvel, knee Star Wars, they're all they're good at nostalgia baiting. And thankfully with the MCU, we haven't gotten there yet because there's nothing to nostalgia bait with these movies because they're their own thing.
I don't know. Did you just watch Spider-Man Far From
Yeah,
Home?
I guess I
baited the whole way through.
This is this is kind of the first case of that, right? Because they do the whole Back in Black thing with the music. I mean, great. Yeah, it's fantastic. And, you know, it's nostalgia baiting back 20 movies ago. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, going and redoing The Lion King as a live-action movie is...
Oh, don't even say that. Going back and animating The Lion King differently.
Oh, I know. It's just, I mean, it's
hate the idea of it being a live-action.
It's just...
It's not.
It's CGI.
It's not.
It's just
animated.
I know. It's not like Mulan, which is an actual live human actors.
And, like, did they literally pay the same actor to come back and read Mufasa lines again? Did
James Earl Jones
get paid to do the same job twice?
I believe so.
Oh my god,
man, that's a cushy job. That's a cushy goddamn job.
They've already got the WAV files from 30 years ago, man. Just lay it down again. It's ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing. They probably had more dialogue because there's going to be more to this movie. And look, I appreciate that they've cast some folks in it that should be interesting. You got Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar. You've got Eric Andre, who is absolutely one of my favorite comedians, as one of the hyenas, which is totally inspired casting. But at the end of the day, and again, you know, take me out back and nail me to the cross of the mouse, I don't like The Lion King. I honestly don't understand the obsession with fucking Hamlet with lions. Like, fuck off.
I don't know. There's something beautiful and sumptuous about the animation in the real Lion King.
Sure.
The new CGI Lion King, I don't need to see photo-real lions pretending they have lips that beat. Like, everything about this offends my sense of reality.
But
Whereas
here's the thing.
Mulan, I'm excited to see basically a female-driven, Disney-made kung fu movie. I am here for this. I don't care if Eddie Murphy's not the dragon or there's no dragon. To me, either way seems to improve the film.
But why make Mulan if you're not going to just make a goddamn movie with a talking dragon? Look, I don't give a shit about the talking dragon.
Part of the story.
I know. I don't give a shit about the talking dragon. Frankly, I haven't seen any of these goddamn Disney live-action movies in theaters. I didn't go see Cinderella with the dumbass Stark brother. I saw Beauty and the Beast, but I was dragged to that. And you know what it was? Fucking Beauty and the Beast. The movie I saw when I was like 4.
There was
a little bit more.
Good as that.
Right. You know what? Sorry, there were more gay undertones to offend my right-wing sensibilities.
That was actually, kind of lovely.
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
The thing I didn't love is that they cast a woman for star power who can't sing well enough for the role.
Can she act? An issue. Can she act, though?
Are you kidding me? She's great.
I'm just kidding. Emma Watson is good. Emma Watson's good.
Yeah, she's great.
But Daniel Radcliffe is better. Come on.
Well, fair.
Rupert Grint is the best of the 3.
I find him unwatchable. But
I mean, look, how many movies has he been in now? Oh wait, I think we'll show him the door.
Yeah. Although I feel like what's going on with Mulan and what's going on with Little Mermaid are more interesting than the usual let's remake our intellectual intellectual property. But the thing I find sad is that 30 years from now, Disney will have made too few new ideas to have things to remake because they're churning through them like 4 a year.
Right? Why don't they space them out?
Well, and why don't they come up with some original ideas? All their only original ideas now are coming out of really Pixar and Marvel and from Star Wars, and these are companies they bought.
Yeah.
The actual Disney itself isn't really making new ideas the way that the House of Ideas is supposed to be making ideas.
No, it's nostalgia baiting. It's nostalgia baiting.
And I think it's good. It's good business from this quarter to the next quarter, but it's going to be bad long-term business. It's going to bite them in the ass. But they'll always have Marvel. So
right. They'll have Spider-Man making $90 million, or not $90, $500 million in one weekend.
And 15 years from now, Spider-Man is going to be Spider-Gwen, and it'll be great.
Spider-Man's already Spider-Gwen, dog. Have you seen Spider-Verse? We already got it. We got it on screen. We got it on screen.
I mean, we're going to actually have a woman as Spider-Man. We're going to actually have a Latinx black man as Spider-Man.
Do you think racists aren't going to? Do you think racists aren't going to exist in the future?
Well, they're dying off.
I hope so, but at the same time, I mean, this is the same group of people that didn't want Idris Elba to be James Bond.
Hey, man, when one of the highest-grossing films in American history is Black Panther, it's too fucking bad because people are loving these films. Asians are the stars of successful movies. Black Americans are the stars of successful movies, and racists cannot go see the movie if they want, but that's not going to make the movie not successful.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, also, look, I'm the kind of person who, like, I don't sit and say, oh, this is a black actor movie. So I'm like, look, I don't care who's in the fucking movie. If it's entertaining and it's a high-quality movie, I don't care if they're green, purple, or fucking peach. I don't give a shit because I just want to watch a movie that's entertaining, and the color of the actors is not even secondary. It's at the complete bottom of the pile of things that motivate me to go see a movie. I go see a movie if it looks interesting. If Jordan Peele's next movie looks interesting, I'll go see it. If Spike Lee's next movie looks interesting, I'll go see it. If Nicholas Winding Refn's next movie looks interesting, I'll go see it. I just don't understand this idea of, like, fucking getting pissed about who's in movies and what. Like, fuck off. Yeah. Just so annoying.
No, we're in a really beautiful time right now where every major lead doesn't have to be a white guy or Denzel Washington.
But they never. The sad thing is, like, why did we ever get to the point where it had to be that? You know what I mean? That's the problem, right? I mean, it's great. It's great and all.
Like,
I don't know.
That place and getting out of it is what matters.
Right, but that's my point. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's great and all, but, like, it would have been nice if that had never been a thing to begin with. So we couldn't be like, we're casting black actors. Now it's like, boy, that's really not something we need to be sitting and tooting our own horn about. Like, we should have it should have just been like that from fucking square one.
It's not an exclusively American thing. There was a time when
it's not.
My first Western has a black man front and center on the poster. And when it was being shopped around the film markets back in 2008, it was offered to these Japanese buyers. Bear in mind, these are black men who were buying films for Japan. And they said, ooh, do you have a poster without the black guy on it? Because this is not going to sell in Japan. And so, like, it's not just America. This is a very racial issue, a charged issue around the world. But I gotta say, there was a time when it was just Denzel or Will Smith that would still actually be able to sell a movie in Japan. And now we're in the post-Black Panther world. So this egg has cracked, and we just need to continue smashing it to smithereens.
And yet here we are talking about a movie with two fucking crackers as the lead and the villain. You know what I'm saying? Down with Whitey.
But I gotta say, this is my favorite MJ.
I mean, oh yeah, she's I know you don't like Kirsten Dunst.
I have a deep and abiding love for this performance Zendaya is giving of MJ.
I mean, she's just playing completely disinterested, which is great.
Well,
she's playing a Gen Zer. She's playing a Gen Zer perfectly.
She's playing this like level of social anxiety that comes across as like posturing. I just think there's so many layers to it that are just delicious. I think she does such a wonderful job, and I'm so happy that Zendaya exists, and I'm so happy that she has this job.
Yeah, and she's great. I mean, look, everyone in this film is great. You've got J.B. Smoove, who's in there a little bit. You've got Martin Starr playing his character from The original Hulk movie with Edward Norton. Yeah, that's been confirmed. That's a thing. We can't forget about that. We have the oh man, talk about perfect casting. Marissa Tomei. Right?
So good.
Which is also kind of funny that she is now of the age as an actress where she can be playing someone's aunt. Like, I remember a couple years back, she was just in My Cousin Vinny. Also, I'm convinced that woman does not age. No, she's like her and Keanu drink from the same goddamn fountain, dude. Like,
that way.
Yeah.
And so delighted that they managed to explain that, Marissa Tomei looks great because she's aging really well, and Jon Favreau looks a bit busted because I guess during the blip he aged 5 years and other people didn't. So I think that's a fascinating game that they played in that film. The idea that some people are aging these 5 years and other people didn't, and what the interactions around that would be. And I just think they did really, really brilliant work in this film to sort of use people who are aging in such a way that it's even more believable. And I just thought it was so fun that this scrawny little Asian kid turns into this hunk just in time to be a pain in Peter's ass. I enjoyed that very much.
And can we also talk about the fact that they took back the name The Snap and turned it into The Blip, and now that's what it's going to be known as?
Oh, no, it's different. The Snap is the event.
Right.
The Blip is the time period in between.
Well, the Blip is them coming back, right?
No, the blip is the time in between. In between snaps. That's the blip, where people blipped out and blipped back. That's the impression I got.
Also, can we talk about the direction, because this is the kind of last thing I want to talk about. The direction the MCU is going now, they kind of set that up at the end of the movie a little bit. I mean, you've got Nick Fury in space.
Yes. The cosmic element of things is looking very, very cool.
Is more present now than it was.
The Secret Invasion game that they're playing is very fun. And I think they're going to be doing some neat stuff with the Asgardians of the Galaxy and with Captain Marvel on one side. But they're going to do great stuff with Ant-Man and Spider-Man and hopefully War Machine on the other side. And we're also going to get to play along with what the world is like for Black Panther. I think they're doing a really good job of keeping their universes separate but linked.
Well, and the thing about where they're going is they're setting up, they're leaving the door open for Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah.
X-Men, whenever that is.
Yeah, and the Kree Skrull War will hopefully be something that we get to see in...
Do we need to see that, though?
I think there's a great...
I mean, do we need to see the Secret Invasion, though?
I hope.
I mean, it's kind of like World War Hulk, right? I think they're going to do it, but I don't think they're going to do it straight up, which is fine because, let's be honest here, that's what makes the MCU so much better than DC, is they are taking the stories and doing something with them that pays tribute. I wouldn't say lip service, but pays tribute to what the story is in the comics, but they also are reticent of the fact that they can't tell a 24 comic book story in a 2.5 hour movie. So they do something with it that's a little bit more streamlined and interesting while still paying tribute to the original storyline, which is why everyone was getting pissy about Thor Ragnarok. And I was just sitting back like, if you expected them to tell World War Hulk in one movie, I don't know what to tell you, but they can't.
Well, and they know that they need to fill out a really cool movie with a really cool A plot, a really cool B plot, and maybe even a C plot. And so the fact that they can reach through 60 years of storyline and grab a cool A plot from here, a cool B plot from there, and a fun little C plot from there, and weave them into one really great movie, like they managed to do that with Spider-Man Homecoming. They managed to do that with Spider-Man Far From Home. They've been doing that so well. They did that brilliantly in Iron Man 2. Like, they do a great job of grabbing a Crimson Dynamo and a Whiplash and a Demon in the Bottle and whip that into one movie, and it's wonderful.
Is Iron Man 2 the good, though?
It is. I rewatched it just 2 weeks ago, and I can say I very enjoy it.
I think I need to rewatch it, because I defend Iron Man 3, and I actually like that movie. But everybody shits on that movie constantly.
I think all the Iron Man movies are great. They're different degrees of great, because the first one set an incredible tone. The second one gives you the great, beautiful gift that is Don Cheadle as War Machine. And the third one gives you a wonderful Iron Man not wearing his iron storyline.
storyline, and that's a very Shane Black move. And I think it's a cool little movie. You can't just have the same Iron Man movie every time, and that's part of what made the second one not live up to the first one. They tried to beat for beat the first one a bit too much, and I think the third one went vastly in another direction. And I think what they did with a silly magic ringed character was brilliant in Iron Man 3.
And I hope Spider-Man 3, whatever its subtitle is, because clearly it's not going to be Spider-Man 3. It's going to be Spider-Man :
Homie, don't play that.
Homie, don't play that. It's probably going to be Home...
Free.
I don't know. Home free? Yeah, right. Something to that effect. Or, I mean, look, it's going to be... They've modeled... I've read in an interview they've modeled these after the Harry Potter movies, which kind of makes sense because it's like different years of high school. So his next year is his senior year of high school. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with the character. Like you said, if they're doing 9 movies, which seems like a lot. But, I mean, look, they just introduced Spider-Man. There's clearly a lot of ground that they need to cover with the character.
They still not even touched Uncle Ben, whose bags got blown up, unfortunately, because I really liked getting to see the monogram on his bag. We haven't really touched Uncle Ben, and we haven't really touched the actual Spider-Man. Both of them are fascinating things to have not bothered with yet.
And I don't think they should.
I
don't think we need the Uncle Ben anything, right?
Uncle Ben has been his own movie twice, and I think in much the same way that Thor Ragnarok managed to give us a really cool, important element of World War Hulk without giving us 6 movies worth of my son Scar is now coming to planet Earth. None of that's necessary. They managed to really distill it down to the bits that made it drive you home, and that's what mattered. And I feel like if they could do that with Uncle Ben and the origin of Tom Holland's Spider-Man by giving us, I don't know, Miles or Gwen or Silk, even a character that gives us a peek into their origin, and we learn about Spider-Man. That would be pretty cool.
I honestly think that what they've done here is they downplayed the Uncle Ben character because they effectively turned Iron Man into Uncle Ben.
And Hogan.
Right, which is great because it works a lot better in a pre-established universe that this character is just coming into. And so Iron Man is the driving force. Unlike in the original Spider-Man films with Tobey Maguire, that the underlying force in those 3 films was Uncle Ben, Cliff Robertson. In the Spider-Man movies, it's Iron Man. They're intertwined, and it works so well.
It's so perfect.
And this movie is great. Again, I don't, there's not a lot of problems with it.
No, it's really quite flawless in so many ways. I think, there's some weird, funny humor in it that usually lands pretty well. I think J.B. Smoove and his like wacky, strange witch science man is super fun. I really enjoyed the joke of the European woman getting him to strip. I thought that was amusing.
Night Monkey?
I think the Night Monkey bit is so good. Like, it's really quite fun. And getting to watch Jake Gyllenhaal behave like a theater director is magnificent. Getting to see him wearing essentially a mock version of Mark Ruffalo's motion capture suit. Like, everything about what happens in this film for humor on so many levels is brilliant. And I just hope that we can continue to keep, I hope Watts can keep this level of execution where it's at, because it's so good, so consistent. It's like the Ant-Man series at this point. The movies hit it out of the ballpark in exactly the right way, and then when you incorporate that character into the big stories, it's wonderful.
And again, the fact that we get Jake Gyllenhaal in the MCU, someone who I never thought we would see in the MCU because he's an actor with the emphasis on the tour part. He's a high-class actor, and you get to see him having fun. You see Jake Gyllenhaal having fun. He's getting to do what Jake Gyllenhaal in 1999 was doing in Donnie Darko. He's having fun in a role that's not taking itself too seriously.
And it's also tongue-in-cheek performance. Like, I think there's an extra layer to this that is what made it so interesting for Jake Gyllenhaal. Because you're right, it was not a slam dunk to get an actor like him interested in a role. And what they did with Mysterio was like a bullseye designed. It's like a bait on a hook just for him. Perfect.
And look, all they need now to complete kind of the puzzle of getting the great actors of the current generation of actors in the MCU is they just need to land Keanu. They just need to land... okay, sure.
The grand old lady? You need the grand old lady.
She's in the Fast and Furious movies, man. How am I supposed to feel about that? You know who they need?
How you want to feel. But no, you're right. I think if they get Keanu Reeves to play the Silver Surfer, we all.
Well, he's going to be in the Eternals, right? Is that what the big rumor is?
That's the rumor. We'll see.
I mean, look, all you need then is you got Keanu. Maybe you get a little bit of Alex Winters. You have a little Bill and Ted. Oh wait, they're making the third Bill and Ted. Never mind. Never mind. So, what would you give Spider-Man: Far From Home out of 5? Excuse me.
Out of 5? Oh, I'd give it 5. It's exactly what it should be.
Whoa.
Great.
So let me ask you, second question before I give you my answer, is this now in your top 5 MCU films? And secondary question, where was Endgame in your top 5 since we didn't get to talk about Endgame? Since someone was talking about Game of Thrones instead.
Yeah, man, that was a rough weekend for all my favorite characters dying. Jesus.
We're going back in time.
My top 5, yeah, right? My top 5 MCU movies are still Iron Man, Infinity, and I would put Endgame in there, and then I love Civil War and Black Panther. So no, Spider-Man: Far From Home isn't in my top 5, but I think because it's not it's just a good. The next issue of Marvel comic book movies was great. On to the next issue. Like, I don't really rewatch these things like I used to, so it'll be interesting to see now that we have to wait till, I don't know, was it April or May of 2020 for the next for Black Widow? It's going to be a little while before we get another issue.
Black Widow featuring Stranger Things' own David Harbour.
Yeah, that'll be.
Yeah, because everybody knows he was already in a comic book movie, and boy, didn't that go well.
Yeah, that was a bit of a corporate infighting, wasn't it?
Well, it was kind of I haven't even seen it. I have it. I want to watch it. Look, the problem is you have the goddamn third movie of the Hellboy series that Del Toro did that never came out, and it's one of those things where it's like, I didn't ask for this, you didn't ask for this, the fans didn't ask for this, why are you giving this to us? Oh, because
rights issues. They did it for rights issues. The same reason that we got Fantastic, a half-baked Fantastic Four movie.
That movie's great. Josh Trank, guys, he'll never work in Hollywood again.
Well, and the sad thing is, it was frigging Kinberg who sunk that ship, and what did they do? They then went ahead and handed him Dark Phoenix, which was what? A complete flop. The fact that these like industry stalwarts are just handed things to completely ruin, I do not understand.
Is he a stalwart?
Movie, yeah, that guy's been just.
I know. It's sad, right?
The party line on every bad X-Men movie you can think of.
I think I can say this from the bottom of every X-Men fan's heart. Simon Kinberg can go fuck himself. He is completely garbage. And like, no amount of rewatching Days of Future Past and remembering that movie a lot more fondly than it is when you watch it can do anything to change the fact that he is fucking awful. And anything that he's part of the Twilight Zone reboot, by the way. He is one of the people that headed up. No, that Twilight Zone reboot is real. It's real bad. It is going to age so poorly, and so many of the stories are so ham-fisted. If you'd like reference for that, listen to the Dreams for Sale podcast where we talk about that. But Simon Kinberg, anything he touches is just turns to shit.
The thing about Kinberg and X-Men is he's involved in some of the good films, but he's involved in all of the bad ones, which is kind of all you need to know to say don't let him write and direct an X-Men movie. He needs other ingredients to make it not terrible.
Was he part of the third one?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he's a part of all the bad ones. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, and let's not even talk about the fact that, Bryan Singer was directing those X-Men movies, but it seems Bryan Singer finally got the heave-ho. Thank God.
Bryan Singer directed as many terrible X-Men movies as he did good ones. So
I was going to say Bryan Singer directed as many good X-Men movies as he raped kids, but he's raped a lot. He's raped a lot of kids, and thank God it seems that no one wants to work with him anymore, and rightfully so.
Yeah, that took way too long.
Yeah, but he directed Bohemian Rhapsody, but you wouldn't know it because they never mentioned it when he.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Thank
it's
God.
like that movie directed itself, which it essentially did. I mean, no directors were in the editing room. That poor editor had to put that movie together by himself, which is probably why it wasn't edited very well.
And you know what the best thing about Bohemian Rhapsody is? I think Dexter Fletcher got a directing credit on there, and he went on to direct the Elton John movie, which all accounts,
great.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So I wouldn't feel too bad. I wouldn't feel too bad for him not getting, him being saddled with that movie. But at the same time, I think that was kind of like his, audition for Rocket Rocket Man.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. It's basically making a very similar movie, except in the case of Rocket Man, the star is actually going to do the singing instead of doing, I don't know, a bad impression with horrible teeth. Like, basically that entire performance was just teeth.
And he won an Oscar for that.
For teeth. He won an Oscar for teeth.
And also,
it was written by people who did not particularly like what Freddie Mercury did in those movies.
Oh, you mean being gay? You mean being gay? Like he was?
Yeah, it was pretty horrible.
Weird. It's almost vilified. It's almost like Elton John is a gay man, and so is Freddie Mercury, but if you watch those two movies, I bet you could tell me that one of them really downplays it.
Well, the idea of homosexuality in Bohemian Rhapsody is vilified and shown in a way that is like the darkest period in a self-destructive person's life. Whereas in Rocket Man, it's just who this cat is, and he's just like
and has been and always will be
trying to figure it out. And there are moments where he tries to feign heterosexuality and it doesn't work, and he is okay with it. Like it's done with so much more sensitivity and grace and intelligence, and I've really, really enjoyed it.
And the other thing that we should point out is Rocket Man. We've completely gotten off topic here, but it's fine because it does tie back to Bryan Singer. Rocket Man is a movie made about someone who's still alive, so they can say, I don't want you to talk about this.
Or that's not how it went.
Exactly. And Bohemian Rhapsody is made by the members of a band who no one gives a shit about now that the lead singer is dead, and they don't understand what made their band great because they're too stupid to realize it was not them.
Yeah. Oh my God. The original draft of that script.
Oh, I know.
Freddie Mercury died halfway through.
I know. And the whole thing with Sacha Baron Cohen wanting to do a movie about Freddie Mercury and then saying, no, we want to do a movie about Queen, the band. It's like, guys, you don't understand. No one cares about you.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
No one. Nobody
Now, I have an Avengers-related question for you. When do you think Avengers Endgame will defeat Avatar?
Hasn't it already?
No. It's still, $15 million short?
I fucking hate Avatar so much. I just wish it would go away and Endgame would be the number one. The problem is Endgame was never on 3D, right? So isn't that why Avatar's numbers are so much higher?
No, Avatar's numbers are so much higher because it was a blockbuster for 40 weeks in a row because it's an incredible piece of cinematic history.
It's an incredible piece of shit.
Hey, man, just because it's Universal...
because it's Fern Gully, 3D Fern Gully reboots?
Yeah, absolutely. You make a Universal story.
Stand that movie.
Pocahontas. You make a movie that is universal in every way. Guess what? People show up. People show up like no one has ever shown up in a movie before. It is
real bad.
$100 million away from its closest, closest competition, which was also by James Cameron.
You pick some really weird hills to die on. I would not suggest Avatar is the hill to die on because that movie is a fucking piece of shit.
No, man. Avatar is easily digestible on purpose. Everything.
Yeah, isn't it? It's almost like it's uninteresting aside from the fact that it's a technically impressive film and a poorly written, poorly acted actual piece of narrative fiction.
If it was poorly any of those things, it wouldn't have what it has.
That's not true because there are people that will just go see a movie because they like to see explosions. Have you seen the Transformers franchise?
Yeah, but there's a reason the Transformers franchise don't go into they don't even break the top 20 all time.
But as a franchise they break the top 10.
Yeah, because you add up enough shit, it counts.
Yeah, but that's my point. It's not about one movie making a lot of money. It's several movies making even more money. That's the thing,
Avatar
James.
Avatar is one movie, and that's what makes it remarkable.
But we're gonna get Avatar 2, 3, and 4. So claims James Cameron.
But the fact that Titanic and Avatar are both standalone films that got where they were with one release, and some of them got a little bit of a re-release, but that was only for like $10 million here or there. They got where they are without being a part of a series, without having sequels, without having prequels. They got where they were on their own merit as one film, and that is a hell of a thing.
Yeah, the real sad point here is the same guy who directed Aliens and Terminator Judgment Day directed Avatar and Titanic.
Yeah, man. Those are all excellent films.
Two of these things are not like the other. Two of these things are...
Titanic is a
saccharine melancholy,
film.
just... Again, it's technically impressive. It's technically impressive.
Like all the things that make movies popular and succeed are things you don't like.
That's not true. You know what? I am not the only person who does not like Avatar. This movie made $577 million, and I like Spider-Man. You're missing the point here. James Cameron movies are just saccharine, and dude, Avatar is so bad. I don't understand. You wanna die on some hills, man? Pick something that I'll be like, you know what? I applaud your judgment for like Titanic and Avatar.
Before 3 months ago, the two most successful films of all time you don't like.
So
that's
what?
Really weird.
Hey, can I tell you something? Weird. Can I tell you something? So if we're using the argument that something that has made the most amount of money should qualify it as good, you do know that just because the public says something and a bunch of people agree should not be a definer of quality, because let's not forget, Donald Trump is the president of the United States and a bunch of people voted for him.
Yeah,
and Doug Ford is whatever of Toronto, of Ontario. I mean, like,
and
people...
neither of those guys got a majority.
But they had enough people vote for them to get them elected. I'm just saying that giving the public... Giving the public
true democracy.
Saying that the public is right because more people showed up for one thing or the other does not denote quality. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. I mean, look, Transformers has made a couple $1 billion. Are they good movies? No. You and I would agree on that. But yet people still go see them, which means if they're successful...
That's why no single Transformers movie has broken the top 20. Because they're just not, with the exception of Bumblebee, which I thought was lovely, they're not good movies.
You know what, man? Avatar and Titanic are bad. That's my final opinion. I don't care if they're the top grossing movies. I don't care if they would come to my house right now and give me a reach around. I still don't like and I would pay to see them. I would pay to see them give me a reach around.
How many weeks out? How many weeks out do you think are we from Avengers Endgame?
Is it still in theaters?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, probably 2 or 3 more weeks, maybe. I don't know. I mean, the thing is with Endgame is I wanted it to break that record just so we could say that broke a record that probably will never be broken again, but I can't really say that with any certainty. I mean, it'll probably get close, but I don't think it's going to break it.
Really? You don't think it's going to get those last 15 million?
I don't know. I want to believe it will, but how many more times can people who already haven't seen what is undoubtedly the biggest release of this year, sans the new Star Wars movie, but the new Star Wars movie had so much bad juju from the last movie, and I know you liked it, and I don't want to get into that whole thing again.
No, but you're right. There's a lot.
But like, there are a lot of people that are just like, I don't want to see Star Wars because Last Jedi was so fucking bad, and they're completely checked out now. That hasn't happened with Marvel yet, and hopefully it doesn't. So I don't think. I mean, like, did you go see Endgame again?
I did. I saw it when it was re-released with the Stan Lee tribute.
Because they didn't even have it here. They didn't even release it here.
Oh, well, that's weird.
So,
I mean, it
like,
made
that's
an extra $10 million that weekend, though.
Right.
So
but like, I'm just saying, like, in smaller markets, it didn't even probably get released again.
Weird. I was wondering if it was going to come to Canada, and then it did. But the thing I find interesting is that we're only 10 weeks into Endgame's run, and it was 15 weeks of Avatar making at least $1 million in the box office, which is bonkers. Like, crazy success is what that film is. And it also took place in the dead of winter and not the height of blockbuster season. So Endgame's got like a deeper long tail going on. But I think it can make those last 16. If they just leave it in the theater, it's going to make, $3 million a week for the next month and a half, and then it wins. They'd be foolish, I think, to take it out when they're this close to defeating a pretty much impossible to defeat number.
Oh, right. So we're complete Disney shills, and look, we're going to go cash our checks at some point, but look, even if you're a contrarian, even if you don't like the MCU, which I know that there are people like that, I have friends that are like that think that the MCU is stupid and they have no interest in going to see those movies. It is modern mythology for a group of children and a group of teenagers and adults who grew up with these films. I have friends that are 18 right now that when Iron Man came out, they were 8 years old. And this is their version of what for us, I mean, you're a little older than I am, but for us would have been Star Wars or Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so now they're getting to see something that I wish I was growing up at this time. This is a great time to be a fucking nerd. When we were in high school, being into comic books was something that only the quote nerds did. Now every motherfucker and their mom goes and sees Spider-Man and Batman and every fucking comic book thing, and MCU is cool and it's mainstream and that's awesome. And I would love...
What a time to be alive.
Right, exactly.
What a time to be alive.
And at the end of the day, would I love for this movie to be on top of a pile that will never probably, I can't say for certain, be dethroned? Sure. Might it happen? More likely than not. If it falls short, it's going to fall short so close that people are going to be like, God damn it, I should have gone and seen it one more time.
Yeah, I think they'll just keep it in. I think they'll just keep
until
it
it is
until they get there. Like, it would be foolish not to. I really feel like there's you don't get a whole lot of shot at hitting this number.
No, and also it's a big F you to James Cameron, who essentially shit talks superhero movies. So
yeah, well, you know,
and he can go fuck himself because
shit talk it till it trounces you.
Well, he's shit talking it because it's the thing that the cool auteurs do. Oh, fucking Netflix is dumb. Netflix movies aren't actual movies. Okay, Steven Spielberg, who's being paid by Apple to make fucking streaming content for them. Yeah, really dumb, dude. Get the fuck out of here. Come on.
The reason directors tend to shit on Netflix is because of the televisionation of film.
The barriers have been removed.
Well, it's not just that. It's that in TV, the writers are king. In film, for some goofball reason, the author of a movie is the director, and it really should still be the writer. And I think the fact that we're in a time where the televisionification of film is making these special people, these powerful directors, feel like, oh shit, writers are important. It just scares them, and I think that's funny.
I also think directors like being gatekeepers of shit, like anybody else, right? They like that whole I'm the gatekeeper. It's like, you know what, fine, but you know what, Spielberg, the high horse, get off it. Scorsese's making a movie with Netflix. Shut the fuck up. Like, go make Ready Player One again. That movie was director for hire. They had you make it because if you didn't make it, they wouldn't have been able to reference half the shit in the book. And that's fine, because I don't even think people remember that movie came out, because it was bad. Yep. It was like Avengers Endgame, but with none of the stakes, and, not good. Anyways, so for me, this movie, I don't know if it cracks the top 5, probably close. Top 10.
Yeah, it's in my top 10.
Yeah. I like how Winter Soldier has slowly migrated out of everyone's top 5 lists, which is fine. I mean, I think Winter Soldier's a good movie, but I think there's better movies now.
Just beat themselves over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. I think I think Infinity War is still better than Endgame. I think Endgame still, the time travel shit, it always feels like a crutch. They did it better in Endgame than they've done it in other time travel movies.
Well, they did such a fun job of explaining time travel in a way that made it not a complete erase of what had happened before.
Also tearing down other time travel movies in the process, which is kind of fun.
Yes, which is so good. I love it.
But at the end of the day, this is top 10 for me, probably close to top 5. My favorite is still Ant-Man 2. I like Ant-Man 2 a lot. I like how Ant-Man 2 completely subverts what your expectations are for an MCU movie, and that the villain is not really a villain. I mean, they kind of do that in this movie too, but it's a little bit different.
Well, and that a hero is not really a hero, which is quite fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd give this a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, it's fun. It's a fun movie. It's a good movie. Don't go in expecting too much. It's just a fun movie. There's not a lot of pretense. It has J.K. Simmons, which is super cool. So that's something to get excited about as far as I'm concerned. So
and definitely sit through to the end of the end credits.
Right. Because that's when we get maybe what's the setup for the next bit of MCU stuff? Yeah, if not the setup, but like the seed planting.
Yeah.
So, we are going to take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Culture Cast.
Warning. We interrupt this presentation with the following urgent message regarding the stuff. If you see it in stores, call the police. If you have it in your home, don't touch it. Get out. The stuff is a product of nature, a deadly living organism. It is addictive and destructive. It can overcome your mind and take over your body. And nothing can stop it.
Are you prepared to say on the air that you've actually seen people devoured by the stuff?
Tonight, America is in grave danger.
That's right. On the next Culture Cast, we're going to be talking about The Stuff, continuing our body horror marathon here in July of this year, the year of our Lord 2019. Until then, where can people find you, Mr. Campagna?
Well, you can find most of my work on highballtv.com, which is a film festival streaming site, basically, for film festival cinema. It's like Netflix, but the movies are good. They're all from like Cannes and TIFF and Berlin and Venice and festivals that I like, as well as ones like the cool, funky, strange festivals like Dragon Con and After Dark and South by Southwest. So it's a pretty cool place where you can see most of my work. And anytime I make a new movie, it tends to go there as well.
And people can also find you down rooting for the Toronto Raptors down in Titletown, Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, I do live here. I didn't watch any of that, but it was, sport. Yeah.
Man, what a time to be alive and not be a fan of the team or not care, I guess. It's weird, right?
Yeah, I wasn't even in town for several of the games where they could have won it all. And then by the time I got back, it happened.
You know what they say? They don't have Kawhi Leonard anymore, so pride does matter. So
yeah, that was one and done. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, they got, as they say, they got their one, so that's all that matters. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at casualty_Chris. You can find me on the Culture Cast. You can find me on Chronicles from the Crypt, where I talk about Tales from the Crypt. You can find me on Dreams for Sale, where I talk about Twilight Zone 1985. You can also find me on the Kolchak tapes, where I talk about Kolchak the Night Stalker. And boy, I just too many podcasts for one man. When will it stop? We do not know. Big thanks as always to you, Matt, for joining me. I mean, again, I don't know. The next time we're probably going to talk about fucking the New Mutants when it comes out, maybe.
Oh, sometime in 2027.
Oh, I think it's supposed to come out in August of this year.
Yeah, well, they just keep pushing it back. Although I would like it if Disney would just rip that Band-Aid off for Fox, because it just needs to be dead already.
And if it's not then, we'll try to get you on before October, but I think the next time we talk is the fucking Joker movie.
Oh, God. Well,
and we're not going to pass up an opportunity to talk about Star Wars, because if it's anything like last time, it's going to be... And you know what? I can say with absolute certainty, we're going to talk about that Ghostbusters movie next year. Boy.
Oh, yeah. Whenever that piece of crap comes
out. My God. Boy. Oh, God. And big thanks as always to _91 for the intro, outro music for the Culture Cast. We'll catch you on the next one.